on data analysis on SPSS will encompass A to Z of research, starting from introduction of research and research problem to in-depth data analysis. The resource team comprises of Dr. D. Ravindran, who will take us through the introduction to research and problem identification. Dr. Arati will highlight on the process of measurement and scaling. Dr. John William will introduce the various tests on 26th April. Dr. Joseph Charles will demonstrate exploratory factor analysis, cluster analysis, and discriminant analysis. Dr. P.C. Geeta will work on comparison of means using ANOVA. Dr. Shija Krishnakumar will enlighten on predictive analytics with the help of correlation and regression. Dr. Justin Nelson Michael on the last day, 2nd May 2023, will address on non-parametric test. Hope the participants will have enriching and informative session on all days of the FDP. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. A brief introduction on the resource persons for this 7-day FDP. Dr. Arati specializes in organizational behavior, emotional intelligence, and leadership, and has a teaching experience of 3 years. Ma'am has presented and published several papers and will be conducting a session on measurement and scaling, development of scales and questionnaire, coding of data, and introduction to SPSS. Dr. John Williams specializes in marketing and general management and has a teaching experience of 13 years. Sir has presented and published 19 papers and will be conducting a session on hypothesis testing, types of tests, frequency, chi-square, and t-tests. Dr. Joseph Charles specializes in marketing, banking, and analytics and has a teaching experience of 7 years. Sir has presented and published several papers and will be conducting a session on exploratory factor analysis, cluster analysis, and discriminant analysis. Dr. P.C. Geeta specializes in human resource, marketing, and analytics and has a teaching experience of 15 years. Ma'am has presented and published several papers and will be conducting a session on analysis of variance ANOVA, ANCOVA, factorial ANOVA, and MANOVA. Dr. Shija Krishnakumar specializes in human resource, organizational behavior, and marketing and has a teaching experience of 17 years. Ma'am has presented and published numerous papers and will be conducting a session on predictive analytics, correlation, linear and logistic regression modeling. Dr. Justin Nelson Michael, Director, Center for Research, specializes in accounting and finance and has a teaching experience of 16 years. Sir has presented and published 24 papers and will be conducting a session on non-parametric tests. Dr. D. Ravindran specializes in retail and channel management, entrepreneurship, and rural marketing, with a teaching experience of 12 years. Sir has presented and published several papers and will be conducting this session on research problem identification and research design, problem identification, literature review, research design, objective and hypothesis formulation. I request Sir to please take over the session.
Thank you, Sharon, for the nice introduction. Thanks to our Dean and our beloved head of the department, Dr. Baby Sir, for giving opportunity to act as a resource person here. And I'm also thank our this event coordinator, Geeta ma'am, and our faculty friends also today's Chinese. So without wasting our time, we can directly go to the session. Just a confirmation of whether the slide is visible, ma'am.
Yes, sir. The slide is visible.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Proceed, sir.
Yes. So today, as an introduction, and as ma'am already told, that it is not like our regular FDP or regular research workshops, which is mostly focused on the students. So even the number is less, we want to give more inputs to the research scholars and the faculties who are into the research. So as it is a closed group, and there are a few participants here. If you have any specific questions or support you require. So today itself, if you say the details, either in the chat or to the event coordinator, so that will be helpful for the forthcoming faculty members to contribute more for your requirements. So today's topic are a little bit more, but anyway, we are going to touch only the introduction part of all these things. So it starts with the research problem identification and research design, and how to identify how to identify the problem and how the hypothesis can be formulated. Even the hypothesis formulation in detail will be explained by John sir while he is discussing about this topic. So as we know, the research. So what is research? Research, we will say that we are searching for something new, or we are verifying whether already the existence is right or wrong, or already we have an assumption based on the previous research or observations or the history or an experience. Whatever we had an assumption, whether it is right or the same thing is continues today or not, or is there is any new theories or assumption coming in. So this is research, and if you're doing a PhD or if you're writing an article, you might be know the process. So this is the entire structure of our research process, even it is a thesis or an article writing. So the first thing is starts with the defining and formulating the problem. So when we say research, immediately as a researcher or a faculty member, we will straight away think about the title. We will write up the title, and next we start writing the questionnaire, and we will start doing data collection, and whatever the data is available, we analyze something, then we will start writing the objectives and hypothesis. So most of the people may do this thing in terms of writing an article or a thesis. That is the biggest mistake. So recently I have a friend who want to actually in the industry, he want to register a PhD in one of the management institution in my area. So last 6 months, actually, he cleared all the entrance examination. He want to register. The faculty is also ready to register for it. But for the last 6 months, both the future guide and the award is discussing daily messaging, and he is also discussing with me for the last 6 months just to confirm the title. So earlier, before 15 to 20 years, while we did research, we just simply register for a PhD, and 1 year we will do the coursework. Then we will start discussing about the title. But nowadays, everything is changed. For registering a PhD, we have to go for a pre-viva presentation. In the pre-viva presentation, we should have a very clear presented titles like a title, objective, hypothesis, major variables, and what is the future scope. Whatever we are going to discuss in the synopsis presentation or viva presentation, at least the 25% has to be presented during the pre-viva, and some experts will be expected there, and including the guide. If they felt okay with that, then only a candidate can go for registering a PhD. This is the scenario today. So as I said, my friend is discussing for last 6 months. Both are interested, but still now the guide said, without have a clarity in the title, I cannot proceed. So what is the major problem my friend faced is finding and formulating the problem. That is the first word stated in the research process. Finding or formulating the problem. So all other things, hypothesis, our data collection method, questionnaires, which will comes next. So mostly we think about analysis part. Even we have around 300 pages of thesis. We mostly focus on the analysis part. Sometimes it might be outsourced. Analysis can be outsourced. And at the time of Viva, the major questions will come only in this introduction part. Mostly they will speak about why this title and how. In terms of how, it is easily explainable with our statistical techniques or tools if they are experts. But in respect to the why, we have to answer for that. This is the slide which explains about the different types of research, basic research, applied research, exploratory, etc. So most of the time when we go for it, we mostly go for the descriptive research. Descriptive researchers, we will find out the problem, and we will find out some variable, and we will go for some survey or secondary data. From the available data, we do some analysis. We try to describe either it is a primary data or secondary data. We try to describe this way only these variables having the impact on these problems. So most of the time, even we use different words, most of the time we'll go for a descriptive research. Sometimes in terms of finance or a real industry things, or mostly in the science, they want to find out new things. They want to invent new things, or they want to clarify, which is not at all done earlier. So they want to find out the new variables. Those type of things called as exploratory research. So mostly we go for descriptive research. So these are the slide will explain what is basic research, what is applied research, what is exploratory, what is conclusive. So we have a lot of things, but we have to come for the one final conclusion this way only. So conclusive research mostly happen in the industry before starting any project. We want to come to one conclusion, which should be structure. Then only we can proceed with that. That's a conclusive research. So where has I already shown the research process, how our research problem will start as defining our research problem and formulating the working hypothesis. And based on the research problem and what is hypothesis is our assumption. So before doing anything, or before starting a research, or before writing an article, or before completing the PhD, about the title, we may have some assumption that may be right or wrong. That assumption may be right for the previous researchers. So we want to formulate that hypothesis first. And based on the hypothesis, we have to go for the research proposal. Normally, in terms of thesis, we'll call it as a synopsis submission. And in terms of research article, if somebody is working on the research article writing, we call it as a synopsis or abstract. Most of the reputed journals, they won't expecting us to submit a full article. They will ask us to submit the abstract first with 100 or 200 words with the keywords, and it should explain all the basic things which might be covered in the entire. Only if it is justifiable, then only they will ask us to submit a full paper or camera ready paper. So both in terms of a PhD or writing a reputed journal article, for writing this research proposal or an abstract, these two things, that is identifying the research problem or writing the hypothesis accordingly is very important. Then we have to formulate a research design and sampling, etc., etc. So research means what should have. So as we know that when we say title, immediately next to the title, we will say that why you are doing the research, the purpose of research, or we will say the statement of the problem, or we can say the scope of the research, in what way it is going to help the future researchers or the company people or academicians, whatever it may be. And what are the major objectives of the research? So it can be a 3 to 5 major objectives that will cover entire chapters or entire hypothesis will comes under this objectives. Maybe the fourth or fifth, the last objective will most focus on the interpretation or the conclusion part. And the research, when we say we are going to do research, it should have a proper plan, how we are starting, how we are ending. And whenever we are proposing a title or a hypothesis or a variable or statistics, we should have a logical justification for all these things what we are doing. And most of the bias happens is when we write a title itself, we will decide, okay, this way only it will come. So for example, we'll say advertisement versus purchase behavior means we initially will decide it. If we give more advertisement, then automatically the sales will increase, the satisfaction will increase. If the more incentives are given, then automatically the employees will be satisfied. Like that, we have some assumptions. Those assumptions can be sometimes biased. Sometimes can be biased. So, for example, if I am an employee, I am doing the research, I will say that no, whatever the incentives they are given is not okay for me. If I am in the middle level or the higher level, I might be looking for other things apart from the normal financial things. But if I am in the operation position, yes, I obviously look for incentives, etc. So as a researcher, I should not put my experience, I should not put my assumption, or I should not put whatever I heard through others. I cannot make it as that. So that's why we call it as unbiased, or it should be a neutral. So while I'm starting a research, I should be neutral. Then if I say if I am neutral, mean how I can write a title, how I can write the objective, mean yes. So I have to go for a panel discussion, I have to go for a survey, I have to go for a storming session. That is the initial way. I can go for a pilot survey. And most important thing is I should go for a review of literature at least for the 5 years in the focused area of the research. If everybody says this way only the problem is going to exist, these are the major variables to be studied, then only I can proceed. I cannot go with my bias things. And when I am doing a research, my research should be a complete transparent and ethical context. What is transparent ethical context means? So if any point of time, if anybody asks how many samples you collected, means I should be able to tell. From whom you collected. Yes, we may not write their name or mobile number, etc. But some institutions, while submitting the PhD, they may ask your full data and what is the way you are collecting. Earlier time, we have a paper, we take a Xerox and we will show that proof with the signature of the people who respond. Now it is not possible. We may go for Google form or Survey Monkey, etc. other sources. Then they will ask, please validate it. Okay, this is the rare scenario, but if you are writing a proper article for the reputed journal like Q1, Q2 or ABDCA category, A plus category, means the acceptance of the paper will be very, very tougher than doing a 5 PhD by a person. So when you send the paper, they will analyze, then immediately they will ask, please send your data set. The data set should be very transparent and they will ask what is the mode of data collection. Can you please share the source? So by these way, they will identify whether you are transparent research or you adopted some unethical practice. It's very easily. So either it is academic purpose or industry purpose or for research writing purpose. This is very, very important. And you should have a provision for being reliable and replicable. What is reliable and replicable? So today I did one questionnaire. The questionnaire scales development that will be explained by Dr. Arti later. So I had a scale, had a questionnaire. If I am using the same questionnaire after 3 months, I may do a PhD for 4 years means. I am using, I have a break after 3 months, I am doing, after 3 months I am doing, means for this questionnaire should be reliable. It should be used multiple times, but answer or the response should not be biased. So we call this a reliable and replicable. It's multiple times you have to use our research commands, etc. So now we come to the what is the research problem? Yes. It refers to some difficulty which a researcher experienced in the context of either in a theoretical or practical situation. So problem means, yes, as this statement says, that problem means what is the difficulty. It's not only the difficulty, what it means that problem means not our real problem. So what is the real situation or theoretical assumption? That's called as a problem. So problem is like a statement. So while we stating a research problem, there must be an individual or a group. Individual can be a customer or it can be a group of community. So I have to find out a person who is my population, who are my targeted customers or who are my target community to be surveyed. So those people, do they any problem they are facing? And I should be very clear that there must be some objectives to do this research. And there must be an alternative means for attaining. So I had one objective. That means objective means I had studied one problem. For the problem, I have some set of objectives. Those objectives I am doing in this way. If it is not possible, I should have an alternative way to achieve the objective. So that should be alternate course of action for that. And there must be remain some doubt in the mind of the researcher with regard to the selection of alternatives. Selection of alternatives, okay, can be objective 1 or objective 2 or objective 3 or variable 1 or variable 2 or variable 3. So likewise, what it says that we should not have a predetermination. We cannot come with our assumption. So there should be some alternative that should be confirmed either through the pilot survey and testing or through the review of literature. Then only we can say that the problem is real. And there must be some environment to which the difficulty pertains. So we should be able to explain about our micro or macro environment, either it is finance or marketing or analytics, whatever it may be. So whatever is related to the problem of study, the environment has to also be addressed. So the research problem is one which requires researcher to find out the best solution for the given problem. So what is objective of stating the problem is that problem has to be resolved at the end of the day of research. I should suggest something so that the problem could be resolved. What is the major mistake we will do? So if you say titles in human resources, immediately the researchers or the students will start saying, so we are study on employee satisfaction, some study on employee retention, satisfaction on bonus and incentives. Likewise, we have some set of topics. The same problem which was studied, addressed by many people, mostly we should avoid that. And if you have any problem, yes, we have a problem, but it will create a controversy in terms of a region or religion or political things. We are not encouraged to do this, especially in terms of doing a PhD. Okay, article, yes, we have the right to do, but best we have to identify a research problem in terms of a research purpose. It is for an industry purpose or it's for the political study or social aspect, it's different. But if you for academic purpose or a research purpose, better avoid a controversial topic, even though it is a problem existing in the society. And whenever we discuss about the title, either the article or the thesis heading, so nearly 1 month will go. Always the guide will say your title is very narrow first initially. Then we will try to add what will add a study on customer satisfaction of mobile phones. Then you will say it is very short. Then we will add a study on customer satisfaction of smart mobile phones. Again, you will say it is narrow. Then smart mobile phones in Tamil Nadu. Likewise, we'll continuously add some words. And here itself, we will write a study on relationship between this and this and this and this with the mobile preference in this. It will go to 3 lines. So guide will say initially it is too narrow and later we will say too wide. So it is too narrow or too wide. It's not the words, not the lines. So first we have to think, yes, the title is very clear so that I should get a proper variables to study. So in terms of questionnaire, later it will be explained what is construct, what is item, what are the dependent, independent variables, etc. So when we say the topic, for the objective, we should be able to find out some variables. That some way, at least for that some variable, our title should be very specific and it should be very clear. So that if it is too narrow, we cannot take that variables. And if it is too wide, then again we have more variables. We may have a 400 questions, but we don't know which question we have to search. That is the biggest problem. So it should not be too wider, it should not be too narrow. So we should take a feasible thing and depends upon our cost, depends upon our ability, depends upon the time period we want to focus for the study. Yes. So next one, research design, we will call this research. So research design is very important before we start speaking about the statistical tools and techniques. So statistical tool, if you want to design the statistical tools and techniques, for that, we should know what type of research design we are adopting. In the terms of thesis, these all things will come under first unit itself, first chapter itself. Even the research methodology parts may come in 3rd or 4th chapter. But first, if you read the first chapter itself, the research design, everything will be explained. So based on your objective, based on your hypothesis, the research designs are framed. The research design is related to your what are the variables of study, etc., etc. Then only we have to determine what type of tools I have to use. But mostly the error will happen. So we will take the questionnaire, we will survey the questionnaire, and after the availability of the data, we will do some analysis. Whatever the analysis is responding to the question, I will take, okay, I took chi-square, I took correlation, I took regression, I took that study, I adopted some analysis. Some people say some analysis is not coming, so I'm going for that, etc., etc. So this is not the proper way. So our analytical tool should be decided by our objectives and our research design. So whatever is suitable for my research objectives, hypothesis testing only I have to choose. Based on that only I should go for a questionnaire and the variables. So a research design will say about what, where, when, how much, by what mean concerning inquiry. That should answer this. It is arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of data in manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose of the economy in the procedure. So if your research design is very clear, then only you can go for further steps. In terms of research design, what will the further study? It's about study about why, where the study, what type of data, where can the required data be found, that is the availability of the data, time period, sample design, data collection method. So these are all things based on, we will say, used to call this a scope. Only word we use the scope, and another word we use is a limitation. So our research design should be answering these all questions based on our limitation and also our statement of problem or the scope of the study. Then only it is a valid research. So in terms of research design, we have a different types of research design. It can be a quantitative or qualitative. But mostly we'll try to convert a qualitative things into quantitative for some or other way. That is easy for our analytics purpose and easy to justify. So these are the listed ones: experimental, quasi-experimental, survey, correlation, etc. Mostly we'll go for a survey type. These are the way the research design can be fine. And what are the other concepts we should remember to finalize the research design? Dependent variable, independent variables. What is dependent variable? What is independent variable? And we'll say what is extraneous variable. So what is dependent? Independent variable is outcome variable, which may be affected by another variable. For example, my satisfaction level is dependent. My income or advertisement may affect my satisfaction level. Which is getting affected is dependent, which creates the effect or impact can be called as independent. The independent cannot be, for example, gender cannot be changed. My income cannot be changed immediately. My age cannot be changed. So these are the independent variable, dependent variable. Based, again, these concepts are very important for formulating questions also. And what is extraneous variable? So extraneous variable are sometimes not related to my study. It is not my gender. It's not my occupation. It's not my income. It's not my satisfaction, preference, performance, etc. So I'm confined to these topics. But these variable also may have an influence on result or my perception. For example, I have more income. The assumption is if I have more income, there will be more sales. I have more income, more sales, but retail outlets are not available in the place. I have a more income, more sales, my tax, my family structure, or my political condition in that area, my government restrictions, or natural restrictions like COVID. So product is available in retail outlet. I have a money. Both are having interest to sell and buy, but unfortunately, these extraneous variables are affecting it. So while formulating the research design and we should be very clear, dependent, independent. If there is any extraneous variable which affects the relationship, that also has to be stated, and framing the hypothesis and what way it has to be tested. So these concepts we should be clear so that our research design will be perfect. That's why I'm saying before going to the questionnaire part, these things should be very clear. We call it as a research methodology. So research methodology not comes only during the 3rd chapter or 4th chapter. The initial discussion itself, it should be very clear. The next will be confirming about our sample design. So sample is a portion or a part of a population. The preference or perception or answer by the sample should represent the population. That is the meaning of the sampling. The population is otherwise called as a universe. So we should know these things. Okay, what is my universe? What is my universe? So what are all possible respondents? All possible respondents can be called as a population or universe. And what is the feasible population? That's called as a sample. I cannot cover 1 crore people. I want to cover only 1 lakh people. That's a feasible thing. I select in a proper way. That is called as a sample. In what way I am, that's a sample size. In what way I am going to select that? It's called as a sampling type or sampling methodology. Source, what way, whether I am going for directly or I am getting from others, dealers list or government list, etc. These are the different words related to sample design. So later it will be discussed. Sample design can be a probability or non-probability sampling, and it has simple, random, systematic, stratified cluster. So again, before going to the analysis, we should be very clear what type of tools are expected. For example, you are looking for cluster analysis or some tools related to probability sampling, but you are going for only judgment sampling because you have no option to go for different types of sample judgment. So if you took non-probability sampling, some type of tools only can be applied. If you took probability sampling, some type of analysis can be possible. So if you want to do this type of analysis, you should be very clear what type of sampling has to be adopted. It's not based on your convenience. It should be based on your expected results. So these also decide our sample design. Yes, there are some formula for sample designs are there. Irrespective, we should have some logical explanation based on our reviews and other suggestions. Yes, next, research questions. So yes, this hypothesis, majorly the hypothesis should be created based on the research questions. So the research question one, for example, if we say objectives, 3 or 4 objectives mean the 3 or 4 objective will be formed from 10 to 15 research questions. I should have a question. If all these things are answerable only, I will go for the title. At the end of the research, it should be solved. And based on that only, I will be formulating 2 or 3 objectives. For those objectives only, I will come for some assumptions. So research question is different, research problem is different. Okay. So for example, here something stated, explain what yoga will be useful for the drug addict persons. How frequently were social media sites such as online forums, Facebook, etc. to be used? How do students perceive their ability to locate information for school purpose? Do general education teachers evaluate students' homework differently than special education teachers? Do state board? So likewise, you can read it later. Okay, so likewise, we may have a different doubts. So those doubts or questions has to be refined. How these questions will come? These questions will come only if you experience, if you go for a panel discussion, if you have a pilot survey, or if you at least read the research review of literatures from the journals and other sources only will come with some questions. Those research questions are important. Okay, so then again, for these characteristics of the selecting a problem, yes, selecting a problem. Okay, so as I already listed, these are the other things we have to consider. My personal interest should be avoided. And researcher knowledge, for example, if you have industry knowledge, if you are choosing the same industry related title, mean that is a different. But if you are from the academy, if you want to do in the industry, that will be different. And if you, based on the feasibility, time availability, cost, these all things has to be considered to define a research problem that should be answered from the research questions. Then again, the topic, some suggestions are title should, as I already said, the title should not be too long, it should not be too small. And title should start with the action words with the stimulation, development, assessment. Research problem should be very clear, easily understandable even to the layman, and the language should be very simple. There should be some regulation has to be followed in formulating the topic, which is referred from the review of literature. And the problem, mostly if you took some recent topic, only there was a mistake. So I took the recent problem, yesterday only happened. Last month only happened. Yes, the problem is very new. We can say it is a very novel problem. Mostly in the research, we use the word called novelty. Yes, there is a novelty, but one the major problem we'll face in writing a research article or the thesis writing is, what about your reference? Even you say it is very novel, the questions or the variables should be justified with enough review of literature. Sir, I'm only going to do the research, sir. Nobody done it, then it is not accepted. It can be a debated topic, but without a proper review of literature or justification, we cannot proceed with the topic. So you have to understand, it should not be so current. Okay, it existed, there should be some reference that should be there, and there should be some preliminary study has to be conducted, whether it is feasible. Better, we can go for pilot survey or preliminary study, even if it will take 6 months or 1 year. After that, if you are unable to formulate a question or unable to find out a study, mean you can request to the guide to change the topic rather than fighting with the topic, which is not going to give any meaning to your research. Yes. So as already research, some resources may be subject expert, research supervisor, colleagues, websites, database, etc. Yes, already the research problem, process of research problem, yes, specify the problem, justify the problem. There are some steps you have to follow to identify the problem, and how the research titles, research problem, research methodology, there should be some evaluation. The evaluation can be done by the self if you have experience, or you should consult with the guide or your peer group members or the panel discussions, etc. Okay, so this is just listing out the steps in formulation of research. So I am taking more time in the research problem that is very, very problematic thing in all the research. So identify your subject area, identify your interest, in which field you would like to specialize in, if it is for the industrial purpose. So it's a general suggestion I'm giving. So I have very interested towards retailing. I have very much interested towards the distribution. While I had an experience in a company, based on that, I took the titles. I took nearly 4 years. I took nearly 4 years to confirm the topic, because I found something novel which is existing, because I know how the market works, how the retailer works, how the salesman works, but I felt very difficult to connect with the research expectation in terms of academic writing, either a research article or a thesis. So finally, whatever title I thought, whatever the problem I thought, is completely different what research I done. Finally, yes, we should have an interest to do or interest to continue with the title, but at the same time, again, I'm saying it should be a feasible academically. If it is a paper writing or is a thesis, then problem identification. That is very important. Then we should go for a review of literature, review of literature, review of literature, review of literature. If you are unable to get minimum 100 proper review of literature from the proper journal, it's not like just a peer-reviewed journal. It's either it is a Elsevier or a Emerald or a SCI indexed journals that should be accepted by the university. You have to check what are the reference they will accept, or if you go for the examiners, what are the standards. For example, mostly we'll go to the Europe or USA, what is the level of standard they are expecting. If you are unable to get this review of literature, means you cannot proceed with your writing. So that is very, 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 very important. Even your result is wrong, which is not coming to your expectation, even your analysis is saying a negative result than your assumption. If you have a proper review of literature to justify your sample, justify your variables, justify your conclusion, then it is safe always for you. Okay, so this literature review is very important. And again, research design and subjects and data collection techniques that we have to design. Then we should go for a data gathering. So initially, sometimes we can go for a qualitative by way of discussing our observation or a perception, but finally we should go for quantifying the data. Then only we can justify it logically. Then again, we can go for data processing analysis. Yes, again, I'm saying data processing analysis don't decide on your payability or your availability of statistician or your knowledge of statistics. Please check your analysis based on your requirement for addressing your problem and the requirement of the particular university or a college, or requirement by the guide or the examiner. That is more important in terms of thesis. In terms of our article writing, please check with the journal expectation. They might give the model. Please go with that. You might be very good in one analysis, but those type of analysis practically it is not related to the journal title. Mean they won't accept. They will say you are from management, but you are writing in something else, unless we are able to justify with the review of literature. And finally, we have to go for implication, conclusion, recommendation, etc. Yes, something else. So these all things I took much time with respect to these research problem, research title, etc. So next one is a review of literature. Yes, you know this while preparing the project report, nearly 75 to 100 page, we fill with review of literature. And finally, what is the problem basis? 40 to 50% plagiarism will come. Only possible area we can reduce the plagiarism is our introduction review of literature part, but introduction maybe only 10 pages. Our 75 to 100 pages will be on the review of literature. We don't know what to do. That is the biggest problem we normally face these things. Okay. So these are some words: see, observe, view, notice, watch, perceive, glance, look, decide, review, criticize, analyze, evaluate. These all words look similar. Okay, they may be similar in functions, may differ in specific meaning, change the situation of change, differ with the people using, differ with the purpose of usage. These things, just put with some words. Okay, these things. Why I'm saying is, while read more articles, we'll come to know that importance of a word, importance of a variable, importance of items, importance of constructs, etc. So choosing a word. What is the choosing a word? Is that the word should be acceptable by all. At the same time, if the word is mostly used in all your review of literature, the plagiarism will come. As most of the people are using the same word, can I use some other word? Then again, it is the biggest question. For example, some people unethically will use some softwares to reduce the plagiarism. Okay, this customer will be renamed differently. Okay, so I meant a customer is in another perspective, but when I say using this other software, it will say buyer. So in the particular sentence or in the particular hypothesis, buyer is different, customer is different. Mean again, it is an error. So we should choose a word that should not change my perception or my objective. At the same time, it should not give more plagiarism also. So it is possible only after reading more review of literature. Parallelly, how to write. And I suggested people to have some softwares. The two software main software is Turnitin and Grammarly. The Grammarly simply correct your English, so you will reduce time in going for verifying this grammar flow, sentence formation, etc. Turnitin, why it is required is if you are writing 100 pages, write just 10 pages. First, write 10 pages on your own style. Check with the Turnitin. It will show what are the possible areas the error is coming. Then you check whether you are able to write to reduce the plagiarism or not. Don't write 100 pages, then come back. So first write 100, first 10 pages, understand your flow, and these words are mostly, it will clearly show what are the words are already available. So please work on it. So the word size is very, very important for the review of literature. So it's not just a word. Review of literature is just helps to conclude. Review of literature is just to try to create a synopsis. It just describing, just to fill the word. These are all unacceptable things in research. So it is not just opinion, self-justification. So review of literature only, yes, support apart from your guide in terms of your thesis or article. Okay, it's a documentation or comprehensive review of published or unpublished work. So mostly it should be a published work. Even the definition from the website says like that. It should be from the published. It should be published from more cited, more indexed journals, and it should be from the at least 3 to 5 years, recent 3 to 5 years. Okay, so why we are doing a review of literature? To have a background knowledge if you're not having any experience. If you have experience, you'll be more confused like me, as I got confused in selecting a topic. So I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of thinking. To narrow down, I have to read at least 1,000 articles. From the 1,000 article, finally 3 articles helped me to finalize the question. So 4 years daily I will go with some review of literature, but finally I came with only 3 articles. So find out the 3 proper articles. It took 4 years. By 3 articles only, my guide and other people accepted my research. So where to focus, where not to focus will be done by the review of literature. And we can identify the variables, we can identify what is the relation. So in terms of hypothesis formation, in terms of selecting a methodology, in what way I can go or not, everything can be justified by the review of literature. And very important question in all the research, especially in Viva, is research gap. Research gap may not play more important in terms of article rating as compared to the thesis. When you go for any Viva or pre-Viva or synopsis submission, the first word is research gap. So research gap cannot be justified with my experience or a panel discussion or any other thing. Research gap should be justified only with the review of literature. There are a number of studies available in all other related areas. My area of study is this. My focused variables are this. These variables are not much, we cannot say not studied. We might gone through the 1 lakh article, but that may be another 1 crore article that we may not able to access or we may not come across. So we cannot say no review of literature. There may be very least review of literature available addressing these problems. That is a research gap. For justifying the research gap, review of literature plays a major role. Even during the Viva also, they will ask, can you please show your review of literature to justify your title, justify your objective, justify your hypothesis, justify your conclusion. Mean maybe 10 relevant article will help you with that. Okay. So what to do with the proper review of literature writing? Read, then write, then refine it. So it is a continuous process. There is no shortcut. There are a lot of shortcut for other things, including the statistical analysis that we find to be very difficult. But review of literature, there is no shortcut, especially in terms of article writing. Single line will be written with 100 articles. So it's very important. Please have a habit of reading more articles in terms of research writing. Yes. So what is the shortcut? Little shortcut is that, yes, it's a shortcut. I mean, the shortcut means you should not follow always. Okay. Abstract, conclusion, research methodology, finding and suggestion. Maybe the 4 main places. If you focus, you will try to understand something. If you just try to write only research methodology, not your problem definition. So these major areas, if you focus, you will get some 2 lines to write a review of literature. But if you focus on addressing the problem, identifying the hypothesis, then you have to read the entire article or entire thesis. Yes, and one is research article I have to choose, and which article I have to choose. What other I have to choose? Those who are having very good research course. So, for example, citation. For example, one time I sent my research paper to a reputed journal. Immediate reply came is you are not covered most recent articles. Then I replied, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 pages listed. These are the recent these things. Okay, fine. They accepted. Then another reply. They put one person name, one author name. Please check this author profile. After checking the author profile, he published around 200 articles. Okay, all cited. Maybe in the last 20 years. All these articles are related to my area of study, trade promotion. Citation is very high. Nearly around 10 SCI indexed journals he published the same topic. When we search with the citation filtration, her name only coming. And they replied, when it's a discussion in mail. When I said, okay, I covered, then they replied this, then I said, sorry only. Is that recent one, high cited one. So even you go through the 1 lakh article, but if you are unable to find out one author who is addressing more on the problem, writing is all research on this title. If you're not got that, it is assumption that we are not reading it. So we should go for a research core of the author. We should go for the citation index or impact factor of the journal and the recent things. That's also very important to justify why I chose on the particular article or author. Okay. So there is some other process, keywords search, journal search, year search. So now for everything we have a software. We should know how to use the software. So VOS software, bibliometric techniques, scientific techniques. There are many techniques came only to write a review of literature. Software. The software, it will give some words, but you should know how to feed the keyword. From the keyword we have to work. Again, it will give some keyword. Again, we have to work. Again, that's a process there. So it's very important. There are many methods of writing ROI. It depends upon your journal or your university. Catalog method, dialogue method. There are many methods are there, so you have to find out. Okay, so and another thing is writing the review of literature. Okay, so in my thesis, because all the review of literature will give some number, the number will come at last. Okay, in the reference. So in terms of reference writing, one of the comment from the examiner is he said everything you just written in the alphabetical order, it is very difficult for me to find out what are the years you focus. So you should return in the year reverse order of the year. That is one feedback. In another Viva, they told it should be in the alphabetic order. Okay, it differs. In some paper or some thesis, they will say, please write down your references in the same page, bottom of the page. Some people will say, please write everything in the last. So the review of literature, how to write the heading, how to write the subheading, what to be focused depends upon various styles suggested by the journal or various templates suggested by the universities. Please follow that. Okay, so introduction, variable discussion, theoretical framework, and we can use the Manley. It's very good software used for writing a review of literature. You should feed all possible your research article in the Manley. That itself will help you how to write. And these are the some things. These things you know, but I'm just putting. Shodhganga will give you the all possible database of the recent thesis, complete thesis. Don't just download this, don't do the copy pasting. Please try to understand how they written. So it is helpful in terms of finding out the related universities. You can find out the template and you can directly go to the research methodology. You can find out what are the possible variables. If you go to the review of literature for the previous study, you can just follow. There may be 200 references. That's a shortcut. Rather than going for a Google search, these 200 are already available. Plus, you have to search for some other thing. So entire thesis will be available from Shodhganga, likewise SSR, and to find out the what journal I have to focus for a particular title or this variable, when you can go for the journal finder, it's comes under the, and the scope of sources you can go, and Bublons, nowadays we call this a Bublons or the Web of Science, we can go for it. ResearchGate, yes, everybody should have a account in ResearchGate, Academia, these are the things, and ProQuest, it's mostly related to the institution database, just TN of online.com. Manly also, if you have a registered database, we can search through that also. And for correcting this spelling, the Grammarly is a good thing. And to find out this citation, which is most cited article, means you can use the Google Scholar. You have a reference article, but you don't know how to write the APA score. Mostly 75% Google Scholar will help how to write the your references, because various styles will be given in the Google Scholar. Okay, so likewise, you can see the citation. And from this article, if you're reading the review of literature, from this abstract, you can find out the keywords and the major variables. And this is the things how to put your references. That's the only I'm putting. So you can go to the reference, APA format, you can select. And you can also select at the end of the document, this things which come. And you can select the APA format. So automatically, so it should be done either in this Word document itself, or it can be done in Manly. Manly is very easy. So if you do all these things, you can see the below is the reference, but how it should be written. So there will be 4 or 5 others. So it is called Lario et al. Year, and this one is a reference number, and The entire maybe this one 10 line abstract you can see. Maybe 8 to 10 line abstract is written like this. So whenever you are writing one line, parallel you have to go for the references. So whenever you are going for a review of literature, do this parallel so that it will reduce your time writing the references. These are the other sources. And whenever you are doing a review of literature, please parallel have these things. Okay, this is not for filling the pages, but it will justify how many articles you study with respect to this title and how you chosen the sample size. So it will say that author from which industry, country, sample size, sampling unit, data. So if you have around 20 pages of this consolidated table, you can write a number of articles from this reference. You can have some new research problem. You can come up with a justification of sampling unit. So with this, along with this, you can add your index details also of the journals that will add more value. So sometimes some people write just 10 tables in the review of literature. They won't write. So what are the benefits? We can reduce the plagiarism. If you go for writing, there will be more grammatical error or plagiarism error will be there. But if you go for the tabular column, it is reduced. But at the same time, the pages also we can write more. It depends upon the format accepted by your university and also by the journal. So yes, the main thing we will focus in terms of writing article under this is plagiarism. Plagiarism is a very important word. Here the statement says that unethical practices it is not recommended. Earlier, in terms of thesis writing, it is 30% accepted. Now it is only 10%. And reputed article also it is expecting 10%. That is very, 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 very difficult unless we are writing, or sometimes they will use unethical software to reduce it. If we use unethical softwares to reduce the plagiarism, obviously the grammar mistake will come. Logical sequence will not be. Please don't do that. So the plagiarism is very, very important. So for just acceptance for the plagiarism, if you do some unethical practices, later it will affect our credibility in the research arena. So we should be very careful in it. Okay, so mostly it is less than 10%. And these are the reasons why people are plagiarizing their article or thesis. Okay, so obviously as academic people, we won't do this. We have to avoid this. Okay, there are different types of plagiarism: self-plagiarism, word switch, copy-paste, and complete plagiarism. There are some keywords also there. What is plagiarism? Ghostwriter. They will simply copy-paste, just a change. I'm copy-pasting from Raja. I'm just renaming as Ravindran. I'm claiming as this is my article, this is my thesis. That's a ghostwriting. Next one is photocopies. I'm smart enough. I've just copied, but I am able to change the important headings like this, like some of the students will do. Bootleg paper, yes, picking the sentence to make it fit together. Okay, so people are unable to find out, even they are comparing with the words. So that we call this a paraphrasing. Okay, so that is also one of the way. A poor disguises alter the paper's appearance slightly by changing keywords. So, for example, if you written an article, use Turnitin, it will highlight what are the keywords showing more plagiarism. Then some people will search, they will go for a search, they will select the words, they will replace with some other word. Then they will try to reduce the plagiarism. Yes, plagiarism will be reduced, but completely grammar will be wrong, there will be more rejection. So there are different types of plagiarism. We should avoid any type of plagiarism for it. Then we can spend some time in hypothesis. Anyway, this hypothesis, for coming to the hypothesis, we should be very clear in our title. We should be very clear in our research gap. Before that, there should be research question, 10 to 20 research question. Then we should find out the research gap from our review of literature and observation study or sample study. Then we have to come with objectives. From the objectives only, we have to go with an assumption. It's called the hypothesis. Anyway, the time is less. I'm just a little bit rushing it. Okay, so hypothesis is a declarative statement of how you expect the research to turn out. It's an assumption statement. Mostly hypothesis is used for testing the assumptions. Okay, so the research question is very important for formulating this hypothesis. Here some example is given. Do state board plus 2 students undergoing coaching will perform better than CPSE students in NEET exam? It's a research question. So if you want to convert an hypothesis, we call this a null hypothesis. Null hypothesis, mostly it will come as a negative statement or opposite statement, but it's not a rule. There is no significant difference between the state board and undergoing coaching. So we should have a question. That question will come from your research gap. Then based on that, we have to formulate a hypothesis. For hypothesis, mostly we should have at least 2 or 3 variables. You can say independent variable, dependent variable, and another thing extraneous variable, which is affecting the relationship. Only if you clear with that and what type of relationship it can have, it may have, that comes based on your review of literature. Then only we can formulate a hypothesis. Okay. For these 2 factors, how the topic is important for the field, availability and cooperation with administration. This is very, very important. Administration department, I am meaning as a guide or your researcher or examiner or those who are coming for DC meeting, or journal means the reviewers. So it is not your interest, it is based on others' acceptance. You, according to you, whether you have a relation towards, for example, I am interested in marketing, but the university accepts only HR, then I have to decide whether I need a PhD or whether I have to do a research in my area. If I need a PhD, even I can go for any topic. But I want to say that I am expertise in the field. Marketing means either I have to change the guide, I have to change other things. Okay, that depends upon personal factors. But mostly in terms of academy, we have to sacrifice because we have to finish our article or thesis. And another thing, based on the time or cost, you may be very innovative, is coming with a new topic, but it may take 5 to 6 years. But if you want to finish your thesis in 2 to 3 years, then you have to go for changing your topic. That's also an impact and time cost involved. Okay, I'm given a few things. Okay, so null hypothesis, mostly it will be an opposite statement or negative statement. Mostly we will write it's our practice. It's not essentially to be. Mostly it will be a negative statement. So whatever we are going to reject it, it's called as altered hypothesis or a hypothesis. Null hypothesis mostly we put as H0, and alternate hypothesis can be H1 or HB or HX, etc. For example, here I say sales and advertisement expenditure. If I say sales and advertisement expenditure, that's how I relate the difference between means. Okay, what is the mean of the sales and advertisement, or otherwise wages of skilled workers in town 1 and town 2, or there can be a difference between proportions have statistical significance. So anyway, we can write hypothesis. So there is no rule this way. There is a statistically significant. So these are the suggestions given by your guide or the reviewers, but there are a lot of ways to hypothesis. It depends upon your template given by your universities. Okay, so these also will be explained later by our faculties explaining about statistics. Okay, so when we formulating the hypothesis, we should be very clear whether it is one-tailed or two-tailed. Okay, so you can see the picture. Okay, so whether your answers are going only one side, either it's a negative side or a right side. So for example, most of the people are answering highly satisfied, or some people will say highly satisfied, another people are saying highly not satisfied. So mostly it is suggested it should have some equal distribution. At least out of 100, 10 to 20 people should say highly satisfied. Some people should say highly dissatisfied. Some people should be in between. So then when it is equally distributed. So you have to see whether it is one-tailed or two-tailed. That is very important to formulate the hypothesis. And another one will say the type 1 error or type 2 error. So where we want to accept the hypothesis, but practically the answer is rejecting it, and in the reverse. Okay, so I want to accept, but it is getting rejected. I want to reject, it is getting accepted from the analysis. So it's mainly based on my variable or hypothesis form. That's called as type 1 error or type 2 error. So statistically we can explain differently, but this is just for your understanding I'm saying. And yes, it's already stated for steps in testing the hypothesis: research question, research gap, hypothesis, and we should have a proper significance. So statistically we have some word is called significance level or acceptance level. It should be we will say a confidence level, 95% confidence level or 5% significance level, like that we will say. We have to check with that. It depends upon our statistical thing. 5% or 10% or 1%, it's not my decision. It based on the accuracy or confidence level required for the study we have to decide. And for that, the pilot testing is required, and it's our decision based on the feasibility to complete the project or article. So yes, these are the few things that I will just as of now will skip. Can go with the single population, or it can go with the two population mean. So this is just an explanation of what is null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis. Type 1 error, type 2 errors. So null hypothesis, there is no effect in the population. Alternate hypothesis, there is an effect in the population. These things only put in different way. And this is one just a comparison. So no effect, no difference, no relation, no change, does not increase, does not decrease. Mostly we'll use in the null hypothesis, but affect a difference, relationship, change, increasing. So there's no rule, but normally we'll use like it depends upon our p value, alpha value, etc. Okay, so come to this, what are the possible way we are writing the hypothesis? So everywhere I'm putting as a research question, I'm not given in a detail, I'm just giving us introduction. First one is research question. For example, chi-square. So the chi-square is, both should be a categorical variable. Okay, so both should be a categorical variables. I just want to find out the relationship, whether this and this are related or not. Okay, for example, the chocolate preference and flavor preference are similar. So whether the preference of chocolate and preference of flavor is related or not. So how I can put the proportion of the people who like chocolate is same as the proportion of people who like vanilla. Vanilla is a flavor. Otherwise, again, there exists no relationship between the people's preference of chocolate and preference of vanilla flavor. Likewise, the same research question or research problem can be written in different way. The meaning is whether there is a relationship is or not. Same thing, it's for a test of significance. We can call it as a t-test. There are many tests, independent sample t-test. Many testers are there. So here we use the word mean. So does training affect the performance of employees? This is my research question. So how the statistical theory will say the mean number of employees work performance does not differ with the mean. So mostly t-test will speak about the mean. So between the trained and non-trained in the population, it's all mu1 is equal to mu2. It's a statistical representation. How we can write the hypothesis? There is no significant difference between. So there is a relationship or association with chi-square. Here we'll say there is significant difference between gender of the training and the performance applies. Otherwise, simply we'll say trainer's gender has no effect on it. Next one, if you say ANOVA means yes, one side is the categorical variable, another one is scaled variable. Okay. Here we say that all means are equal. If the all means are equal, it is null hypothesis. That is, we will say assumption. There is no difference in the significance like that. Okay, there is no significant difference between income level of customers and level of satisfaction. Or we can say equal level of satisfaction. Both are same. Both way we can say. It says that test of variance, how this perception and another set of people perception varies with respect to the mean. We'd say correlation mean we want to find out is there is any relationship between regular use of social media and the eating habit. It's already we studied in different tests, but here correlation we want to study whether it is a relationship is there or not. If there, whether it is a positive or negative or neutral, that also we can. And if it is positive or negative, how much degree? So association, relationship, whether the association or relationship can be measured quantitatively with some degree mean that is a correlation. So there is no relationship between the frequent use of social media and excessive eating, or social media usage frequency and eating habits are not associated. This looks similar to the earlier ones, but here the value, the positive, negative, other things can be measured. Yes, I'm just reminding these are the research process of it goes. So formulate the problem, working on the hypothesis, the research proposal. Now only. So this second part only we are going to focus on the second day, third day, fourth day, etc. But for this, the previous things are important. Okay, so these are the other things which might be discussed by our faculties in the community. So we should know what is variable, whether it is categorical, numeral. I'm not going to explain this. Okay, so we should know, and we should know another thing when stating a variable or a research problem, or whatever it may be, we should know variables, different variable or different variable. Is there is any variable which is mediating or moderating? It's called as a model. This also will be available from other research references, or it can be some other way. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different independent variable will have an impact on job stress. That is actually mediating the job satisfaction. It's not directly affecting it, but it is mediated by job stress. That is one model, and sometimes it is represented in another way. Okay, so these models we will identify from the review of literature research article. For this, so you can see all these words are variables or keywords. These words can be called as an construct, job related, career related, psychology. It's a construct. Under this construct, we can have 5 to 10 questions. So if you have a 200 question, for the 200 question, we may have only 15 or 10 construct. That 10 construct can be derived from 4 or 5 major variables. Those 4 or 5 major variables are found from our research gap or research question. Those things are identified from our pilot survey or review of literature. That sequence is there. Okay. So for example, just see one sample research. Retailer preference of trade promotion schemes for FMCG products. These are the keywords: retail, retailing, promotion, trade promotion. So the entire 200 questions are related to this only. So when we say review of literature, okay, this much is from foreign, this much is from Indian. Even you can go in depth in explaining about the review of literature based on the author, based on the citation, based on the variables, etc. And what is the gap found? We are explaining. This is the gap found from the analysis, from the survey, from the review of literature. From this, we are coming with the objectives of the study. So you can see here clearly, evaluation of consumer characteristics, trade promotion schemes, two main variables. Trade promotion schemes, channel related evaluation, two variables. Trade promotion schemes and company related characteristics. Profitability, trade. So there are only 5 to 6 variables, but for 5 to 6 variable, we'll have around 20 construct. We will have 20 questions to confirm it. So this way only objectives are formed. So to just explain, just show this for variables, store characteristics means it can have a different variable, but here we selected only location, rural, urban, type of outlet, others can be considered. Right side, whether it is having a relationship with the retail characteristics, family background, education, etc. In terms of product category, we use only one word product. A product category can be personal care, house care, branded healthcare, but each one have a different segments. That will be in depth. That will be covered in this, but we will say overall these variables are product category related variables. The same way other major variable, company, consumer characteristics, channel, company related, profitability. Mean right side we are formulating a construct. So left side are 4 major variables, right side are 4 major construct. Based on that only other questions are formed. Yes. If you say scheme, there are 4 major schemes identified from the review of literature, but the schemes have many subdivisions, some explanation that is in the right side. Now we come to the hypothesis. There are significant differences in consumer response and perceived impact. There are some significant difference. Why it's coming? Sir, there are significant because mostly ANOVA is used in the study. If it is chi-square is used, if it is a correlation is used, but in the entire article or the thesis, only ANOVA is used. Means this way, that is the analysis of variance is used. So significant difference is mostly studied. So now these are the other things. From this, we are formulating a scale. To answer this, what I am saying, retail demography scale, I should have 8 questions. Product related scale, I have 4 questions. Scheme related I have 6 questions. Retailer perception scale, I have 74 questions. So mostly 92 questions are there. Out of that, 2 are dichotomous, yes or no. 16 are categorical, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scale, sorry, categorical means it can be with the option. Scaled means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 74. So this structure has to be formed to create a questionnaire. Then model, retail characteristics, store characteristics. This will have an impact on product category, scheme category that is deviated on the 5 different effects. This is one model. So this is based on what? Objective 1, consumer response related. This consumer response related have 2 main variables. These 2 main variables are having sub variable that is created as a model. Likewise, we can have other sample models as I shown earlier. Other models. So these are just a pictorial representation. Sometimes it will confuse us, but actually, if you read the article properly, it is very simple. Okay, so with this, I will stop my presentation as it is nearing 7. So all the best to you. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. And with respect to the exact statistical thing or analytic thing or scales or variables, that will be detailedly will be explained by our other faculty members in the coming days. So thank you all. If there is anything, you can ask me.
If there are not many questions, we will end the session. Dr. Ravindran, it was a very, very fruitful and enriching session. Thank you very much for sharing your inputs with all of us in the FDP program.
Thank you
so much. Tomorrow's session will also start at 5:30 p.m. evening. Tomorrow we will be talking about measurement and scaling, and Dr. Aarti will be enlightening on the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.